Ray, so you did these 20 years as the senior associate. I remember sitting over breakfast with Safira Atul and Bakke in 2004. And I remember him saying to me that what you had done during the 80s and the 90s as a senior associate for urban mission was a gift of Lausanne to the world. What would be something you would want to say to senior associates as we look towards the future of Lausanne, but also Cape Town in 2010?
Yeah, I had the privilege of watching from a distance the behavior of Christian multinational organizations, and all of a sudden I'm part of one, right? I've got World Vision and Billy Graham Associates and Leighton and so on, and I'm identified with that. And I decided, my wife and I talked this over, and I said, you know, my life is I've been a pastor in a city, not a missionary in a tribe. I'm coming at this as a pastor, and therefore I value the church. So one decision I had noticed was impacted by this. I noticed many times for pastors' conferences, the outside speaker flies in on Sunday. Conference starts on Monday in a nice hotel. And we all realized, what does that communicate to the church? You're speaking to the pastors on Monday, but where were you Sunday? You weren't in church. And so Corrine, my wife, said, don't you ever do that. Why don't you go on Friday or Thursday or something so you be in the church? So I came up with a tactic that worked for me almost every time. While I knew something of the city, I'd read everything I could read about the city, certainly in my language. I asked the committee to set up 2 tours. A Saturday tour with a sociologist, I said, find the person who knows that city better than anybody. It might even be a Muslim city planner, but what it is, maybe a missionary, but maybe not. Maybe a Christian, maybe not. Maybe a sociologist. And I told them how they could find one. Go to a university, you know, look at the catalog and walk in there and say, do you know anything about the city? And most of them do. And I said, would you organize a tour of our committee, the core committee, and would you have that expert go in our van and let me ask questions? I knew that the questions would blow the committee away, and that whether we had any meeting at all, they were getting some perspective on the city. I was letting that sociologist teach us all. So I came in as a learner about the city. I learned about the city, the context. The second day I said, on Sunday, would you schedule a meeting with a diagonal cut of the kinds of churches, signs of hope in the church? So I said, pick the cathedrals that are open early at 7, and I'll go there. And then we'll end up in the barrios in the afternoon or whatever. But not to preach. Don't book me in a church to preach, because I don't want to come talking. But I want to pay a visit, a short visit, to each of maybe 15 to 20 churches. And actually, the world record was set in Madras, now called Chennai. 23 churches in one day. Morning until night, they're dragging me around the city. Truthfully, they'd gone out and scouted the city, found churches they didn't even know about. And when I started the consultation on Monday, I was able to say I had been there. And they knew it because they were warned. And they were warned not to make me to stop and say we have this guest, but that I would be standing in the back and I would be looking at visually how the city is worshiping, and the committee would be with me, and we'd be talking about what are we seeing, how is the city being reached, what's missing in all this. And it was like a archaeological cut, not a strip where you strip it away, but you do a cut through and you're tentative. By the time I had been there, I had seen more churches, though, at least in that simple way, than the people in my audience and in their town, and they never forgot that. So I came as a pastor. I came on Friday. I said, let me learn about your city from your expert, and then let me visit your churches that you, and the question I ask is, if you had to prove God is alive in the city, what would you take me to see, and where would it be? And let's talk about people reaching different parts of the city, the poor, the rich, middle class, new, old, migrants, immigrants, and talk about non-traditional churches and in prisons and ghettos and stuff. And I think that's what I mean by listening your way into the city. And that tactic, more than anything else, I think transformed this, because I was coming as the #1 learner, assumption being the Spirit was teaching them, and I wasn't coming in telling them. What I was able to share then was the biblical theology of the city that I had discovered, some models and strategies that I was seeing in other cities. So it wasn't just a Chicago story that they were getting at all. And that, I say that was probably the most important single tactic that I did the entire 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Senior associates do things beyond the city. What are some things that you think are important to say to us as a body as we go about helping to accomplish the mission of Lausanne beyond, up to Cape Town and beyond?
Yeah. One of the things we had a think tank. The senior associates met once a year for us, or twice. You know, World Vision made that possible, but so did our organizations. They were invested in what we were doing. And I always kept my sponsoring organization, Northern Seminary, involved, and they were profoundly influenced by this, and we got students because of it. You know, it was, and they got a world perspective out of this. And so, and I got publishing, so you know how faculty is supposed to publish. So it was a win-win. I think what I appreciate was that people who are working on theology and strategy and all kinds of things met together in a think tank, and we talked. And we didn't come in only programmatic. We became friends. We did. And Leighton let us be human. Not human doings, but human beings. We actually came without having to perform. And we could talk about the challenges we're facing. And I needed a think tank at that point globally, and this was that. Lausanne made that happen for me. And that was one of the things that kept me motivated and kept me alive. I read books. These people were saying what they were reading, and I wrote it down, got home and ordered it. I was so ignorant when I began this. But that's how I think I had learned and appreciated Lausanne. It was a network. People who were willing to say we don't know it all, we're on a discovery. People who assume that Catholics, Orthodox, Conciliar, Evangelical, Charismatic are all learning, they're all contributing, they're all reaching people others aren't reaching. I think that spirit of the covenant is critical.
Good. Well, Ray, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And colleagues, have a wonderful day. Hope this is helpful as we go about our job as senior associates.
And invite me again.
Oh,
sometime.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. Okay. Have a good day.